Comrade, let's get straight to some of these issues. I mean, that as workers celebrated the May Day yesterday, what are some of the challenges that Nigerians are currently facing under the Buhari's administration?
Yeah, the challenges are enormous. You see, as long as exploitations exist in the society, that struggle between labor and capital become eternal, because it's a question of profit greed versus the common interests and social objective of the people. Because if in production, those who engage in productive activities, who put their labor into that productive activities are searching, in that process there are going to be a lot of challenges. There are going to be challenges of education, there are going to be challenges of housing, the challenges of energy, the challenges of the true value of the income you earn. Because whatever you earn, it goes into the market. You see, it's at that market that it determines the worth of what you earn. So there are the challenges of the unfair labor practices, you see, imposed by both government and private employers. Because if you look at the conditions of work in most places, they are not in conformity with labor standards. There are the challenges of attempts by government to always repress labor. And that's why you find each time labor has had a gain, government take the next step to undercut, to undermine the independence of the union. There are challenges of also government default in honoring the collective bargaining process. Because each time workers go into collective bargaining, when you go into collective bargaining or social dialogue, eventually you have an agreement. You see, and when those agreements are not implemented, and that's when you see the strike or threat of strike, you see, and done to by workers. And the public, in most cases, are not aware of those daily challenges that those in the labor force are confronted with. It's only when they just hear about strike, they say these workers people have come again. So there are a lot of that challenge. There is challenges of unemployment. You see, an underproducing economy, an economy that is not taking maximum advantage of its potential, both in terms of human and their resources. And that's why you have what we call the security challenge. Why we don't have security challenge in the country? Because workers are at loss in those things. Because they are the untapped labor. And that's what we call the idle labor. A lot of Nigerian youth really have nothing to do productively because the system is not even responsible to them. So when you now have security challenges like Boko Haram and others that you have to contend with, rather than to take it from that social perspective, you see, of what is really the problem. You think it's just about putting our money into military hardware. So that also gives us the challenges. You get of capital flight. You see an enslavement. You get it now. The enslavement of the working people to international forces. That's what was demonstrated clearly just some few days ago with the president of the country, so ignorant, so even the party, you see, they don't even understand the context, and they are now on a begging spree to an America who operates in this period of international war economy, because American economy essentially is on war. So you have gone to, in a way, you get it now, put the working populations of the country endangered again. Because for a country, defense of your own country, you see, must also be paramount. What are the labor force that are to be involved in the Defense Industrial Corporation? There is nowhere, nothing that is being produced. So, because when we talk about labor, we are talking of the totality, you see, of those who are engaged in productive activities, their brains and hands. You're also talking of those who are in training, because you see, the students are workers in training, like I've always said. Because when you leave the studentry or apprenticeship in the formal sectors, you get it. You graduate to do some productive activities. So when you don't tap that, so you can now see that it leads, you see, to the multifaceted problems that the country has. The country become underdeveloped when it failed to maximize its labor potential.
Now, Comrade, part of the demands of labor currently has been the fact that they demanded an increase in the national minimum wage from 18,000 to 66,500. How feasible it is?
It's feasible. You see, the first thing to understand is that why is there the need for an increase in wages?
Consider the multiplier.
You get it? No, yeah. You see, people in most cases should first understand the basis of the economy. You get it? Economy for who? Whose interest? So you can't pay the wage to ordinary workers because the interest of the system we are running is to appropriate national income for very few people. Let me give an example. Now, the president is supposed to be a public officer. All those National Assembly are supposed to be in public office. They are paid from where? They are paid from the public income. That's national income. Now, let me just give you a graphic example. At least, Shehu Sani recently gave us a picture of an average of 13.8 million being earned monthly by a senator. That translates to the wage of about 27 professors, because the highest paid professor in any of our universities earn about 500,000. So now, when just the labor of a senator, in terms of his labor input, is not working like a professor. You get it now? Because it's also collects sitting allowances at that level. So when you have 13.8 million monthly, that should be the wage of our 27 professors. You see how we shortchange our universities, how we undervalue our own education, because later the safe standard has fallen. Because so you cannot have those personnel, you cannot even pay those personnel. So you see the waste. Because each time people try to talk that you cannot afford, you can afford the wage for a senator, for a House of Rep, for a president.
In fact, I credit your judges. Even the National Assembly recently, just yesterday, also said they are going to work for improved welfare for workers. One big question that was raised was that the National Assembly members make more salary than the entire labor force in Nigeria. How exactly do they improve or plan to improve workers' welfare? Does it not smack of hypocrisy?
Those are just rhetoric. And that's why it's important that should be addressed. See, the second thing about wage, minimum wage is used to redistribute income. Because one of the purposes of minimum wage is to attain some levels of income parity. So what that means is this, because if public officers, because they are elected or appointed officers, are going to be paid from a public source, in that way, their wage must commensurate to the wage other public workers are taking. You see, because you can't shortchange them. Because you have to weigh the value in terms of what we are losing in education, what we are losing in health, what we are losing in social welfare. You see that difference. You see, and that's why people have the argument, why must labor fight for wage? You have to fight for it, because when you have a government that run on private greed, selfish interests, there can be commitment to social objectives. So because each time people now want to say, you look at Brazil, you look at this at that level and go, the first thing is that for social objectives to be achieved, for education, for health, for those social services, it is a cut on the profit of the greedy people. You see? And that is why you discover that as there is economic crunch in Nigeria, the few rich class are getting richer stupendously. Because those money they see as profit, those money they are stealing on a daily basis. You get it now. and not money that are committed to social services. So, thirdly, and it's very crucial, and that is why every Nigerian must be educated about it. An increase in minimum wage does not necessarily cause inflation. As a matter of fact, in Nigeria, the minimum wage paid to the ordinary workers represents multiplier effect in terms of the money available in the Nigerian market. Where is the president spending his income? Where is the National Assembly spending their income? Where are the state governors spending their income? Look at what their taste. Look at the houses they live. Look at the clothes they wear. Look at their children. Where are they? They are abroad. So those money represent capital flight to develop other economy. You get it? It's the average wage of the Nigerian worker that is in the market. You see? Because that's what is circulates. It's the one patronizing that. You see? How much was president spent on, they spent on president? Nobody disclosed it for his health. This could be money that should be able to fix some of our teaching hospitals. So because when people talk about social, because it's not about playing rhetoric. So workers must demand for minimum wage. And the question of minimum wage, because people say workers always demand for minimum wage. Let's go historically, because we are also unfair to ourselves. You see? Historically, yeah.
Comrade, before going into this the history, one of the issues that has been bothering a lot of Nigerians is the role of labor as far as the development is concerned. For example, it has been proven that labor have blocked the privatization of critical assets, and they have blocked the necessary downsizing in government. Well, do you feel that labor?
Who is saying that person must not be in Nigeria?
Do you think labor?
What has ruined the country is privatization. Every privatization exercise cut jobs. Nigerian Airways was closed down. There were outside Nigerian workers for Nigerian Airways. US, Britain, and everything and co. And you were paid their full entitlement. You are workers of Nigerian Airways who today have not been paid their entitlement. People have forgotten that many of them were driven away from the houses where they live, forcefully. You see? What was the strength of workers in the aviation industries before Nigerian Airways was closed down? What is the strength today? You see? Nitel? What is happening to Nitel? You get it? You kill Nitel, you kill the port industries. Because when you talk about, privatization is about greed. It's about looting wealth for the few. What has happened in the energy industry? Electricity. The same thing. Because you take public investment and hand it over to Shylocks in the name of privatizations. So it is privatization that has ruined the country. There's a difference between private sector participation in the economy. You get it? Than privatization driving the economy. You see why capitalism have survived in US and some other places. Well, one of the things people don't know is that first, have they gone and look at the poverty index in the US, in Britain? Because there have been showcase projects. Millions of people are suffering in the US. Millions suffered in Europe. No jobs. But you see what that society has tried to do is this. This system will not endure. You see, and try to create some form of cushioning. You see? And at every point they want to move behind their point. You see the reaction from that society. You see? So when we are talking of labor, it's the totality of the working people. Labor is not just NLC, TUC, you get it now, or the various unions. Those are just the organized expressions of that. And that's why when you see, because first and foremost, the Nigerian working people, whether you are in the formal sector, private or public employment, must first see a worker as a worker. Once you understand that and you have that perspective of a worker and not create a dichotomy, you see, even among your rank, you can then now see reasons why policy issues become your concern. Not only when the NSC raise it, or TUC raise it, or JAF or other people raise it. And that's why when you see in Europe that they say the creditor nations are meeting, it's not the labor movement that mobilized people. You see 40, 50,000 people amassing there, you see, to give a warning to their various leaders who are at that meeting. If you make concession that will affect or an upward increase of a cent in the prices of any of the goods there, there is going to be reaction. That's the consciousness. No. So, like now, the whole thing about the minimum wage is not just about the workers. It's about the entire Nigerian working population. It's about the students. It's about the apprentices. Because as cost of living rises, you get it. You wage battle with your parent as a student. Because if the cost of transport from Yaba to Unilag, that maybe it's 100 naira, and cost of living making 150. You see, by the time your father give you the same amount, Baba, this thing or Mama, this thing cannot work any longer. You see that kind of thing. So that's correct. So you are forced, and in most cases, because the workers are forced in most cases to shorten their own lifespan. That's why when you say the average Nigerian lifespan, because first, you see most people trekking half of the job because you cannot afford the means. You see? So those are the effects. Those are the real multiplier effect. You get that? Your standard of living continue to reduce. So when you say, how do people manage 18,000? Yes, they can't survive with it. It's starvation wages. And that's why I see people engage in several other things to make ends meet. If you look at workers outside urban center, they engage into farming so that they can supplement. You get it? Good for them, for some of them who still live in the provinces, while accommodation is still cheaper. You can't be with 18,000 in Lagos. There's nowhere in Lagos, even if you are living in the extreme of Lagos, that will not pay 5,000 for a room.
Comrade, let me now ask you, how will you assess Labour's role in interrogating how far the democratic process has been able to deliver on its policies as regards workers and having a fear, being fair with workers, the Nigerian workers?
Yeah, you see, let me say that Labour need to go back to the drawing board because you can't give what you don't have. Labour major responsibility is education and organizing. The more educated, the more organized the workforce are, the better for the engagement. You see, because people just think this democracy, you get it, because what we call democracy is essentially the political and economic arrangement of a society. So for Labour, how do you politically, you get it now, organizationally develop your workforce? Because when the workforce are not developed, your strength for engagement, you see, become lower. And I'll give you an example. Because if you have an educated workforce, there's no reason why any worker in Nigeria should become a member of a party of a ruling class. You get it? A worker go and vote for PDP, go and vote for AC. You don't even understand what you are doing. A worker will then be politically conscious on why there must be a party of the working people. You get it? And why he has that capacity to organize. Because one, you're members of family. You know that's where you earn your livelihood. We also have that political consciousness that this is our own interest. You see?
But there have been instances,
because of that,
comrade, there have been instances where labor leaders who eventually goes into politics find it difficult to implement even the minimum wage.
No, how did they know?
How do they were not protecting the interests of the...
What is that the point I'm saying? Which labor leader? You want to talk of Adam examples? Exactly. You get it. The point is that politics for workers should be organizationally. What are they? Not individual interests. Yes, Adam was there for his individual interest. Yes, he has a labor background. But that's not the excuse. Because what are the agenda of labor? An agenda of labor must encompasses that there must be social responsibility. Government has a responsibility to the people. So if you are not employed, there must be unemployment benefit. An agenda of labor will not treat pensioners the way they are treating them. An agenda of labor, you get it, must proceed from a point of the right for minimum wage and its review. And that's what was demonstrated by the PRP government in 1980. You get it? Before the national minimum wage increase. The two government, the Aremu government, you get it. Renegotiate workers' salary, then to 120 naira. And by the time the national review put it at 125 naira, they move up to that. You see? An agenda of labor cannot be definite on the status of what education should be. You get it? Be clear. The education also. So why I'm raising this is that for workers to intervene correctly in the democratic process, because the structures of the unions make it democratic. So if education, if organization take place at those various levels, they become available, you get it, to enforce democratic practice. Secondly, you see, democracy itself is a struggle. And I'll give you an example. Look at most political parties. If you go and take a census of those who attend meetings, however few, whatever they are, you have a party in a ward, you have 100 people. Take the age. Young people, girls, ladies, boys, men, you get it. You are in such a party, you cannot enforce that first meeting must have an agenda. Abi, meeting must have quorum. In meeting there must be discussions. In meeting there must be decisions. Abi, so if at youth 18, 20, 25, 30, you get it and go, you are just going to the meeting because rice and chickens are going to be distributed. And they will now say, one Baba has said this. You get it now. So you don't even understand why you are in the party. So and before you know it, the same people who are almost young people now, women and who are 80% of the party, who should be able to say, this is the person we appoint as our women leader, elected. You get it and go. We now depend on that same Baba to impose on them. Somebody should be that. So democracy itself is a struggle. You get it? It's a struggle by the majority to enforce their interest and consent. You get it? But what you have in a Nigerian democracy, Abi, is the few who have stolen the country dry, enforcing that. So it's a democracy of the rich, the few rich people. Who is the president of the country today? Somebody who claimed he could not pay for his own nomination form. But who paid? It were those who have looted the country. And you expect such an arrangement to fight any corruption. There's no fighting corruption. They claim they are recovering. Where is the money they are recovering? Where is that policy? No, where is it reflecting? You get it? A country that can afford to bail out private banks and cannot make commitment to education. So those are the issues. So it's sad, and that's why I say for labor there have to be rebuilding processes, because the rebuilding process, we understand, because Labor engage every day on basic issues. ASU is part of labor. You get it? They have to save public education. And that's what informed their engagement. So people are saying that it's all about salary and co. In the whole history of Nigeria, right from colonial time till now, I'm not even sure there's any wage increase that have taken place more than 12 times.
Comrade, finally, one of the aspiring presidential aspirants, Omoyele Sowore, said he was going to assured Nigerians that he's going to implement 100,000 minimum wage. What's your reaction to that?
Let me say that the first thing is not just about the figure of the wage. The first thing is to build an economy that can pay whatever wage that will have a value. You get, that's the first thing. You see, and that's why this wage, if Nigerian workers are earning even 5,000 naira, and the accommodation of a one-bedroom flat is not more than 500 naira, that's a good wage. So the wage is not about the figure, you see. And let me give you an example in Lagos here. I look at the housing policy. They are trying to build 1,000 housing units in a year. Do you take the statistics of families without decent houses or without houses? So where is 1,000? Secondly, you are building so-called low-cost house for high-income people. You get it? There's a difference between low-cost houses for low-income people. You see? Because none of the poor people will ever be able to stay in those houses or live in those houses. So the first thing is the turnaround of the economy. And how do you turn around an economy? You see, you must control your productive forces. There is no reason why a single liter of fuel should be imported into this country, refined fuel. You get it? No reason. The maximum days you can suffer for fuel in this country will just be 7 days. Because a committed party of the working people will annex those raw technology. Because refining fuel is like refining ogogoro gin. You get it? There are hundreds of thousands of people with capacity to refine fuel. You see? So the country just needed a state of emergency whereby it's okay, organize yourself into groups of cooperatives. You get it, Uncle? Because there must be fuel available in the country. They will set up. People will set up that local technology. You get it? And that they can refine fuel cheaper than will be available. The difference, okay, your chronology is still good. Abi, you move. The way people fry gari today, was it the way they were frying it 20, 30 years ago? They have motorized equipment. Abi, people have the advantage of gas now, not going to fetch firewood and go. A country moves based on its own reality.
So, comrades, to round this up, what's the future for Nigerian workers?
And the future for workers is organizing and education. You get it? You see, we need the work. Workers just see themselves. The truth is, there is no people. You see, if you are working and you are not, you see, they are sacrificing a lot. But something is lacking. The basic consciousness as a worker that have a social responsibility to the society beyond the factory floor. You get it? In which case, on a daily basis, you get it? There must be engagement in that larger society. In the churches, in the mosques, in schools, and everywhere. You get it? So it's not the kind where, okay, election is coming now, everybody now rush in that and go. There must be that class consciousness. And you can only build it with massive educations. They are not education that employers will allow, but education you have to commit yourself to. People attend social gatherings and parties and go. Kids that were developed in parties in those days attend weekend and local classes. You see, to understand, so that for every policy, you see, it goes beyond just the workshop floor, because it affects you in that society. You see, and on the basis of that, you can have the totality of the working people, you get it, whether those still are in training or those actually working or those who have retired, as a united force against any government. And that's why you see this government now with its deceptions. Nigerian workers in Israel have never been that minimum wage. We fought for it. So for one president to think that people are gullible enough, if it's gullible, you see, that you want to use the last quarter of the year to now announce a wage so that you can now elicit vote. No worker, you get it now, except a slave worker, should be deceived by that kind of a thing. We have moved beyond that. In fact, that's even the more reason they should outvote such a party and such a president.
Thank you very much, Comrade Abiodun Aremu. We appreciate your insightful analysis.